Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is up and coming in the R&B space. Taking inspiration from all eras of the genre, her sound is the perfect blend of all the household names. With a distinct voice to set herself apart, it's only a matter of time before she's reaching heights. Welcome, STIA.
Hi. Hey.
I always like to start with where your journey with music all began.
Yeah, and my journey is definitely one of the more unique ones. I started writing music 4 years ago because I unfortunately experienced my house burning down. So what, yeah. So what happened was the fire happened. We were displaced. Um, and I felt like I had watched every show. It's like, okay, I read every book. It's like, what else can I do? Like to just pass the time. I mean, you're like, what's going on? Like we survived this horrible experience, and I just started writing songs, and they were kind of bad. And then after a few tries, I wrote my first single, and then ever since then, I found some producers, and I was like, "Hey, I wrote this song," and they're like, "Oh, this is kind of good." And then it just kind of all started from there. So really, it took this like horrible, tragic event, and it birthed out of it something awesome. And if I would have known then that I would be here today, I would be like, "Wow!" But yeah, that's how I started writing music. Displaced.
That's interesting. I've had a lot of people come on here and say
Yeah.
like, "Oh, like when COVID happened, like it got like things moving and like, that's, people had time, the world had downtime at that point to just kind of write." And so
Yeah.
you had a similar story, but an even more personal one in a way.
Yeah.
Was there something
Definitely.
about music prior to that that kind of sparked that? Like, is there like, do you come from a musical background prior to that that led into the songwriting, or what does that all look like?
Absolutely. Well, my grandmother, she was the opening act for Ike and Tina Turner.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, in the 60s, she toured around with them all over the country. And the thing about her name was Betty Johnson, and she couldn't dance, so she couldn't be one of the backup dancers, one of the Ikeettes. So they're like, okay, but you can sing your butt off. So they're like, let's make you the opening act. And she was amazing. I never got to meet her, unfortunately, because she passed away. But um, she did that, and then she did her own solo career, and then she did her own gospel music. So it's definitely like in my blood. I just feel like it had to be activated through that event, really seeing like I can do this too. And I know she'd be really proud of me.
Oh, yeah. When that kind of thing just kind of continues through generations, even if it skips one or not, it's always a cool thing to see and look back and be like, maybe there's a reason that this just kind of, is something I stumbled upon. Like, it literally just kind of is in my DNA.
Yeah, it was gonna come out either way. I don't know if it was gonna come out through this or through something else, but like it definitely, I was like, I can write a song, like for sure.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. So in the time frame of, trying to write these things and stumbling beyond the ones that you don't deem to be that great of work, what
Mhm.
made you decide to really start releasing music and kind of pursue being an artist?
I think it really all clicked for me when I found the right producer and really somebody who I could start from scratch and be like, this is what I want my sound to be. Because I feel like before, and I feel like a lot of artists have this problem where it's like there's somebody they really admire, so they're really trying hard to sound like them, when in reality their music already exists and they already have a whole career, and it's about finding your own voice. So once I hooked up with a great producer who we just sat down, we really just talked, and he really just tried to get to know me, because through that we were able to really figure out, okay, these are the kind of sounds you're looking for, and this is what's going to make you unique. You're not trying to sound like XYBC, you're trying to sound like STIA. So once that kind of all clicked and I started getting different reactions from people about the music, I was like, okay, we're really this is my music, not like, oh, this sounds like boo 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 or boo boo. No, this is STIA's music. So I was like, okay, we're ready for the for the premiere.
Right. And it's always great to be able to be like, oh, this, like, you can sonically compare it to other names that have come before. But if it just,
Hmm.
this sounds like just that one person and you're just kind of the second coming of so and so, like, been there, done that. We need something new.
Yeah, it's like, you don't need another, you know, yeah, we need something new, especially nowadays where it's like everything's remake. I'm like, how many times are we gonna do the same movie over and over again? Like, we need new, new ideas,
100%.
please.
Even if it's a combination of existing ideas to make something new,
Right,
that, at least that.
right. Combinations are good because I feel like everything usually is kind of a combination. But
Hmm.
when you're really just taking it from one thing, that's when it's kind of like copying, and people are like, "Oh, whatever."
Yeah. If
Yeah.
if it's good enough for you to want to copy it, then it's good enough to not need to be copied. That makes sense.
Right.
So, what do you think inspires a lot of your songwriting?
Ooh, what inspires a lot of my songwriting is a lot of things that have happened to me. Like Soho House is based off an event that actually happened. And what I'll do is I just love to talk and I love to connect. And I remember one time I was talking to one of the producers and I was telling them about this story on how I met this guy and um, the Soho House came up and I really have always wanted to go there. And I was like, oh, and then I ended up actually leaving somebody at the Soho House, like, leave them at the Soho House. And they're like, that's a great story. And you should actually make that into the song, like the one of the lines in the songs. I was like, I don't know. And they're like, no, because I feel like if you are able to channel something that's actually happened to you in the song,
Hmm.
it's able to relate with people so much better. Um, and I feel like that's why that song is connecting with people, is because even though mine involved a relationship, people are able to substitute themselves in my place and be like, oh dang, like I remember I had somebody I couldn't get off of my couch. I'm like, what? So I just feel like it's just a relatable thing. And they'll tell me, they're like, oh girl, like I was thinking about that song and it just made me feel about this one guy. He just wouldn't leave me alone. I was like, what? So it's really cool to be able to make something that people can relate to like that. So
It's always interesting that the most like detailed pieces of work are the ones that often connect with the most people, because it's like I'm telling my direct story, but you're somehow
yeah.
trying to tell me that you understand exactly what I'm talking about. You weren't there, you didn't live it. Like, what? It's so weird, but it's like really cool at the same time, because it's like you're not just like making a blanket statement of like, oh, I went through this breakup and whatnot. It's you're bringing these personal details into it and describing the story exactly as it was, and that's what's
Mhm.
resonating with people. i
That's the
don't i
best
don't get
part.
it, but it's really cool.
You have to be specific. And I feel like when I was writing songs before, I was trying, you're trying to be too broad because you feel like it's like the opposite thing. The more you try to relate to people by being like broad, like the less they relate to it. But if you say X, Y, Z, B, C happened to me, they're like, oh, girl, that happened to me too. You're like, what? Are we living the same life?
I mean, if you think about it, the human experience is very much a shared thing. We go through a lot of the different things. The details and the other people in the stories obviously look very different, but the
Right.
experiences are a lot the same. But it's true. It's just like, if you try to create for everybody, you're going to reach
Mhm.
nobody. The more you kind of really try and just channel it as your existence, the more people will kind of understand, because it really, I think, is what it is that it humanizes the person behind it.
Right. Right.
So it's still
Absolutely.
crazy, but I guess detail, detail, detail. So, if you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would you call it?
This is a conversation I've had, and I want to say the new genre is called pop soul.
Okay.
Pop soul. I don't know if that's already a genre. I don't think it is, but I feel like I like pop R&B, but pop soul. I feel like just merges them together in a way that I feel like it's going to be a new genre. And I may be the pioneer. I don't, I don't
What
know.
aspects of pop and what aspects of soul do you think you're ultimately kind of culminating and bringing together?
That's a great question, because I feel like pop, and when I think of pop, I just think of popular music, so like popular sounds, and I feel like that's always changing. Like right now we're in a space where it's very hip hop centric and R&B centric, and we're kind of getting away from that like EDM, um that kind of deep house, future house, and we're kind of moving into more like mellow, spacey, dreamy kind of space. And I feel like that, along with the rhythms and the sounds of like Stevie Wonder and Tina Turner and Shaka Khan, if you got that and put it together, that's like magical. That's magical. And I feel like that's what I'm really tapping into, because I love pop, but I'm like, oh, it needs more like more soul. Like it has to have more meaning. Um, because it's like, how far can we go with just the trap, and that you just like, we have to connect more with the lyrics and the meaning. So I feel like
Yeah.
that's pop soul.
Yeah, the true front runners, if you will, of pop right now is just, it's not like if you go deeper, that's where the
Mhm.
like meat of it really is. But like the surface level stuff right now, I'm not even, as a pop person, I'm not even entirely on board with. But
I'm like,
that's just me. That's for somebody
no, I
clearly
feel like
because
a
it's
lot of
popular,
people.
but
Right. And I feel like there's going to be a shift, because, like you said, it's like a shared experience. And we're all like, we had the pandemic, we had all these things happen.
Mhm.
And it's like, we need meat, like you said, we need some meat.
Yeah, we need the
Not just,
we need that main protein of the course to come back.
yes.
Is there a song or release that you think best embodies who you are as an artist? Like if you had to kind of convince someone to be a fan of yours and you had one song of yours to show them, what song do you show them?
I feel, well, the only release I have out now at this point is Soho House.
Can't help but get in my feelings when we get this close. I'd rather shake all these feelings, but I hate to be alone. Calling me, it's routine, it's time to go right. Friday nights and the Saturdays I get quiet. Some in me gon' change when the sun rises, and the sun rises, yeah. I'm keeping tabs on you, I'm on the internet, and that ain't what I do. I'm stuck up in your web like ha ha ha. You must be amused, I'm paranoid. I think you're wasting my time.
So I would say that. And that was the one before I released it, I was showing people. Like I met with a few label executives and I just told them straight out. I said, this is a hit song. You are welcome to go on this journey. And I put on the headphones and they're like, this is a hit song. And I was like, I told you. And I just feel like it's just a song that it's a replayer. It has great replay value. And I feel like I just really hit it out of the park. We hit it out of the park, not just me, like my whole team, everybody who helped me do it. We really just tapped into something that I feel like is new and refreshing. And I went into, I don't know if you've ever heard of Alfred's coffee shop. Have you heard of Alfred's? It's
I have not.
um, like a woo woo coffee shop. But I gave him one of my flyers. Like I was like, hey, I just released this song. And it's kind of always like a girl just came up to me and gave me a flyer, because I give out flyers. And I was like, you can scan the QR code to listen to it. And they're like, okay. And you could kind of tell they were like, girl, just, what the song gonna sound like? They put it on. I left and I came back and they're like, oh my God, we've already played the song 4 times. They're like, we were hoping you were gonna come back so we could like talk to you about. I was like, wow. So and that really just solidified. Like we really created something really special that I just have been waiting for years since the fire. I've just been waiting to make something that I could just be like, this is it. Let the song speak for itself.
So what are you going to do to follow that up now? You start out with a bang. What are you going to do to keep that momentum going?
More bangs. I got more. I got like 11 in the vault. I'm like, you like this one? You want more upbeat? You want emotional? I was just like, I'm trying to tell you, for a year, I just went to the studio every day. I didn't do anything else. I didn't go to one party. I barely saw any of my friends. My producer was like my best friend during that time because I saw him every day. And I'm going to take this time to work on this music every day until it's perfect. And so I have this song and I have 10 other great songs that I'm like, let them go. Let them just be out in the world. I just can't wait. I just can't wait for them to be out there.
Do you know when they're going to be out in the world? Or is there any on the way, like locked and loaded?
They're locked and loaded. But the next one I want to do this month. So I'm trying to do kind of like what Anita did when she first came out, and she released a single every month, I guess, until she blew up. So the next song I have, I'm going to release hopefully by the end of this month. And it's more upbeat.
Okay. So changing up the pace a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
And it'll live up to the hype that we've started to build.
Yes. I've been waiting a long time for this. So yes, I speak confidently. That's one thing about me, is that when I speak it, I'm like, I believe it. I believe it for sure.
I mean, if you don't believe it's good, who's going to buy that it's good? You know, you have to walk the walk.
You got to walk the walk. You got to, because it'll happen. If you're like, oh, this is bad. It's like, what? Like, you did all this for what then? You know, then you're not doing it for the right reasons, because you're low key like, oh, I want you to tell me that it's good. And people might not, you know, I don't know. But if you believe that it's good, people are going to just want to go off of that. So.
Well, right. And I am definitely a firm believer that you put whatever you kind of put out into the world is what genuinely kind of comes back to you. So if you're putting out this sort of like positive energy around what you're creating and what you're doing, the odds are that, you know, people are going to be more drawn to that. If you're just kind of like, like, see if you like it, or like, you know, like this might be okay. Like, people are going to go in thinking, right, oh, this might be okay. So like, you might get lucky and they're like thrilled with it, but odds are they're just going to be like,
exactly.
Okay, they're going to go in thinking, why bother, you know? So you have to just
not in this industry. You really have to know who you are, because people will say all sorts of stuff. Like, I've had people say all sorts of stuff about Soho House, and you're just like, you can take it and just appreciate it, but you can't let it shake you, because people say crazy stuff all the time because they don't even know. But if you know, then it's like, you just got to keep going forward. And you're like, I know, child, I know. But it's a trip.
Yeah. No, and like, I mean, art is art. Not everybody's going to like it. Not everybody's going to interpret it the same way. So, you know, you take it with a grain of salt. You know, if all of the criticism's coming back negative, then maybe think about what you're doing a little bit. But if it's just some Joe Schmoes are like, this sucks, they suck.
Yeah, I'm like, ciao. Bye-bye.
not, you know, not doing any damage here. No,
right.
We don't allow that. If you had to pick 2 or 3 artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who would you choose?
I would say, usually when I give the flyer, I'll get the flyer and I'll hand it to them. And I'm like, oh, make music, and it's a combination of like SZA, The Weeknd, and if you like a little throwback, like Aaliyah, Janet Jackson vibe. So that, you know, really mellow, smooth, I'd even say a little sultry sound that I feel like is really, really, people really like nowadays. And yeah, that kind of atmospheric R&B pop. And then with the next song I have, it's more upbeat. So it's more of like even more like Doja Cat vibe. So yeah.
I mean, a few of those names are pretty big right now. So you're definitely like, I think you're right in saying that that's kind of a big thing that people are especially enjoying these days.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like I love a lot of the synthesizers. I love like the 808s and the drums. And I knew a lot of the times I was like, oh, give me those like weekend drums, like the do ta do do ta do ta. He's like, okay, do ta do ta. And for Soho House, I remember listening to the SZA song "Shirt," and I was like, oh, I love that. Gosh, what is it called? It's called Omnisphere. It has all these like really deep, just lush. I just love everything that's just lush and just big. And it kind of transports you to your own world. So I was like, give me a lot of just that big synthesizer and that big, just like na da na 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 na. And I love the keys too. So a lot of those sounds, I just was really just like, give me that SZA, just dee 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 dee. Like we're just like the clouds are opening up. So yeah, I definitely looked a lot of them to just make sure it sounds current, because I don't want it to sound like it's from the 80s, but I want to, take some of that inspiration, but then get some of the new sounds. So it's like a nice blend. And so people aren't like, this sounds like it's from 20 years ago, but it's like, ooh, it's giving me 20 years ago, but it sounds like it could be on the radio today. So I feel like it's like a nice mashup.
What aspects of the earlier decades do you think fuels into what you're creating?
I would say a lot of the late 90s. We looked at a lot of Janet Jackson, a lot of her first album, especially with a lot of the keys and just a lot of the chord progressions. Like even some of like Boys to Men, like I said, Aaliyah, and even gosh, there's so many. I love like DeBarge. I know they're a little earlier, but I feel like you could put my song in a playlist of that era music and it would be like, oh, this is like a new interpretation of that. Of course, with new lyrics and everything like that, but definitely like the late 90s, mid 90s as well.
What is an outside passion of yours that you feel impacts who you are as an artist?
Outside passion of mine that impacts me as an artist. I would say for the past year, I've been really passionate about fitness, just my overall health, because one of the things I love to do is perform. I really love to perform. And one of the problems I was kind of having was just my stamina. And when I tell you, I was singing one song, I'd be like, cause I'm in, and I'd be, whoo. And I was like, this isn't like, you want to like go on tour? Like what? So I started exercising and I started going to the gym like 5 days a week and just running. And I couldn't run. The people are like running next to me, like the coaches, like, come on, STIA, like you can do it. And then I went from like being able to half a mile to like 2 miles to like 3 miles. And now my singing voice is just so, it's like night and day. And now I could do a whole set. I did a whole set with the band a few weeks ago. And I was like, oh, this is what it's like to be able to really get like, I was like, what was I doing? And I know Billie Eilish, she recently said she started working out because I feel like it's this thing where if you feel like you have a talent, like I can sing, that's, but just being able to go up there and sing, but not be able to sing for a long time. It's like, well, what are people paying for? So I feel like that just helped me just with my recording, with my performing, and just everything. I'm like, oh, I can sing for like 2-3 hours now without my voice would just be like, but now it's like I could just sing on cue. Someone sing. I was like, hey, I was like, oh yeah. It only took me a year, but there you go.
No, it does. It makes a lot of a difference as much as you really think it wouldn't. It has a big impact as like how you like you're, running in itself, like cardio is, because think about it. You go to a concert, unless they're like Adele, they're not just standing there the whole time,
Right.
But she like, that's just her thing. All her songs are slower. That's her thing. Nobody else is doing
Yeah.
that though. So like, not only do you have to like be able to sing a bunch, but you have to be able to like also just be a little bit more entertaining and move around and whatnot. So like, you think, oh, you just go up there and do it, but it's like, no, there's some more work to it than you would probably anticipate.
So much work. And you don't want to like lip sync because it's like, what? You want to be able to
No.
actually go up there and give it to them. Because
Mhm.
that's the, like Lady Gaga. She's like, you'll never come to my show and not see me sing live. And she sings every part.
Everything.
I'm like, she sings like the ad libs and the bottom part. I'm like, all right. So it's just like, you see, it can be done. I mean, Beyonce, Lady Gaga, there's so many people who can do it live. So I just want to follow their lead and be like, I just have to put in my work. And then once I did that, my discipline went up. I was able to really just focus, and my brain was just like, my blood pressure went down. I was like, that's good.
There were some other positive impacts there.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing a little running can't fix, right?
And then lifting weights too. I was like, oh, I have like a muscle, not a lot, but like my arms are kind of toned, and I was like, come on.
Oh
so
yeah.
it's been great.
Yeah.
It's been great.
The gym is one of those things where, the bigger effort is getting yourself to go and do it than it is to actually try and do the things. Because once you're there, you're fine. But,
Yeah.
so much
Yes.
easier to hit snooze and just call it a day.
Literally. And that's how I knew. I was like, if I really want to make it, it's not just about me going to the gym, but it's about just the discipline of, like you said, being able to just get up and do it.
Yeah.
That's the mind part. Yeah, for sure. Oof.
What is the ideal listening scenario for someone to consume your music in?
That's a good question. Well, I would definitely say, you mean like in streaming or like where?
Like if you were to set the scene of what kind of just setting, scenario, anything.
I would say, well, since I released Soho House, I was able to actually go into the actual Soho House because I had never been there. I was like, oh, so this is what it's like. And it was just all the furniture was so decadent and it was just so curated and beautiful. And I was like, and then everybody was standing by the pool, and there was like these cocktails and it was like mood lighting. I was like, see, if you were to play the song right now, this would be perfect. Just on the loudspeakers, everyone could just be like, it's just like chill, And I just feel like it's made for those types of environments, just like gatherings, people getting together and just like enjoying it. I mean, I don't know if it's like a dance song where it's like we at the club or something, but it's definitely for like a beautiful environment. I feel like it really could just fit right in.
Or just quite literally, Soho House is perfect for Soho House.
Literally. It's their national anthem.
Yeah, really. Plays as everybody enters, it's just on repeat there.
Yeah, or even like a nice store, like what's a cute, like a nice store, like Nordstrom or like Neiman Marcus, where people just, they just want something chill and fun to listen to. Something like that for sure.
What is it that you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
What sets me apart from other independent artists? I would say I feel like I'm just one of those people, no matter when I'm super famous or where I am right now, I will always be shockingly myself. Because I feel like that's the only way this can work, is that I just am committed to just being myself, being a positive, fun, happy person, and not letting anything kind of affect me, and just really staying focused on my goals of inspiring young women and just, being myself, really just being who I am and not letting anybody shake that, because, you know, I've had some times in this industry and I'm like, you see a lot of stuff and you're like, the people who I feel fare the best are the ones that are most grounded. They have people around them who keep them in check. Like I have them people who are like, girl, hold on, reel it back a second. Reel it back. Like we still have a long way to go. And I feel like when you have those types of people, not just people like, yes, girl, great. Yes, girl, awesome. Like you need people who are gonna be like, reel it in. Like we still have a lot. You're, you know. So I feel like that's what makes me different, is that I've always been this way and I always will continue to be this way. And I feel like that's what just my natural energy and how I use it is just what attracts people to me, is that's pretty much it. It's like, no matter if I have 10 Grammys or if I'm washing cars, it's like, you're gonna get the same STIA for sure. Whether I'm in a Rolls Royce or in the Kia, it's the same STIA. Oh, that's good. Ooh.
No, I think
That's good. Rolls Royce.
I think that's a great, you know, mindset and approach to have, because it is like the person that you are at 2 listeners should be the same
Right.
person that you are at 2 million. You know,
Yeah.
it shouldn't, the numbers and the results shouldn't change anything, because you're the same person creating things. You just have a little bit more value, I guess, behind your name, if you want to call
Right.
it that. So 100%, I think you're touching on something good there with like, you should be the same person, like fame and money and whatever, you know, whatever you want to call it gets to people a lot more than it should, because some people, I think, just kind of play the game to get to that point. And those are the
Right.
people that are
Oh,
obviously in it for the wrong reasons. And
right.
those are the people that it'll usually change, is the ones that are just, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like I've been so blessed to be able to meet so many people I've been able to look up to. Um, like one of the sweetest people I've ever met was Rihanna, and it was just like, oh my God, like she's so effing famous. Like she's like
Yeah.
one of the most famous people on the planet, but she's also one of the sweetest people. And I've known people who worked with her on her last album, Anti, and they're like, she's just, you know, and it's like that's how you're able, it's not about just getting there, because you've seen a lot of people be able to get to those points where they're just like, but it's like, how can you stay there and how can you keep, it's like a tightrope. You're just trying, you know, your best to just remain a humble person. Of course, everybody has a bad day, and I feel like people should be allowed to have bad days. But you see the people who are consistently up there, it's for a reason. It's because I believe in God, but I believe if God takes you to those places, he knows that you are able to sustain it and not just like completely freaking lose it and be like, oh, but you're able to like just stay grounded, stay focused, because you got, and then that takes you off the tightrope. You got that, and that takes you off, but you're able to just, you know, just stay grounded.
Tightrope is a good way to put that.
Yes.
That kind of definitely hits it right on the nose.
Definitely.
What impact do you want to have with your music and with your artistry?
Impact. I feel like we were talking about earlier, is that there is, whether it's now or whether it's tomorrow and in 6 months, there's definitely going to be a shift from this sort of culture we have, just where I feel like it's very, very dark. It's a lot, it's very, the direction it's going, I don't see how that could be sustainable for a long time. And I feel like with myself, and why I feel destined and led to do this, is just to bring a new, fresh voice to the generation and be that voice for girls and just people in general who feel like they're not represented in the music industry. Because I feel like now, just this stage, it's a lot of extremes, and there shouldn't be extreme. It should just be focused on the art and making a positive impact. Because I feel like even 10, 15 years ago was just a lot different. And the things that were promoted weren't as accepted as they are now. And I feel like that's why we're having a big problem with mental health, and is because we're just not promoting the right things as a society anymore. It's very dark, and like people have a lot, we need to refresh, you know? It's like music should be an escape, but it shouldn't make you it should make you feel seen, not worse. It should make you feel understood, but not make you feel like you ain't got nowhere else to go. And I feel like that's just what I want my impact to be, is it's whether I impact one person or 100 million people, just be like, I listened to Stina's music and it made me feel seen and understood, and that I can keep going with my life. Not, I ain't got nowhere to turn, you know, I got to do something crazy, but I want to be that person who they could look up to and be like, she helped me in a really tough time. Because I have those people who helped me when my house burnt down, and I would just play their records on repeat. And I was like, oh, this really helped me. And this helped me not go to an even darker place.
And I think you're right. I think just I feel like we've, in more ways than one, just become more divided in ways as a society. And you know, we're trying to do things, but by doing those things, we're like undoing other things. And it's just like,
Okay.
we just can't win. No matter what, like we got to figure it out. I don't know what we're gonna do to figure it out. We just got to figure it
I
out.
don't know what we're gonna do either.
Something's
Oh
got to get
my
figured out.
God.
But no, I definitely think that music is like, it's one of those things that's never like gone out of style. It never will. It has this sort of, it's just one of those like intangible experiences that you just are like, I don't know what this song is doing to me, but I'm not mad about it, you know? We need more of that. And so I
Exactly.
appreciate that is like what your sort of like target is with what you're
Yes,
doing.
absolutely. And it's like, I just think about this a lot. I listen to some songs, and I don't want to say anybody in particular, because that in itself is not the problem. It's more of like the collective, what we're allowing to blow up. Because like, why are we making this person famous? Well, you're making them famous by promoting them.
Right.
I just think more of the fact, just in general, like my cousins and what they know at 7 is like, hold on. At
Reel it
7, I was
back.
listening to High School Musical, like
Oh
Make It Easy,
yeah.
Bake Oven. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you're listening to what? And it's like, how far can we go? Where can we go from here? You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
how much farther can we go? And it's just like, it's tough. It's tough, and it's having detrimental effects. Like, I don't want to sound like, you know, like a politician or anything, but it's just like it's having really bad effects on the kids. On the kids. Not like you need to make kids bop music, but you know, let's leave some stuff up to the imagination. The illusion is okay.
Yeah.
They don't need to know step by step, you know?
Yeah.
So
No, for sure. I think there are definitely like, it's just, I don't know what is the end all be all, but it's not where we're at.
mm-mm. Absolutely not.
I think that brings us to the final question, which is ultimately the concept behind the podcast, which is why music?
Why music? I would say why music, because why not music? I feel like music is the only thing that can penetrate your mind, and in a way it can influence you to do things. It can influence you to be a better person. It can influence your mood. Like if I'm feeling sad, it's funny because it's almost like an algorithm. Like if I'm feeling sad, I want to listen to sad music. Or if I'm feeling happy, I want to listen to happy music. So as a musician, I feel like we have a great privilege and honor, because we're able to deliver our stories and our message through music, and we can make it sound good. We can make it sound raw, and it just cuts through everything. Like we're talking right now, but if I were to put this conversation and make it into a song, you'd feel emotions, and the feeling is what we want. And I just want to move people because I have strong emotions, and I just want to be able to just make people feel how I feel and put their own spin on it and be like, dang, I feel her. Like one of my friends was telling me, she's like, oh, Stia, like I loved your music, you know, all the songs you wrote before, but the Soho House, I feel that. And that's all I can ask for. It's just like, I can feel that. So why music? I'll say, why not music? Because that's the only thing that can move people. You can read a book and stuff, but at the end of the day, you put on music, you're like, ooh, that takes me right back to when I was 6 and I was riding my bike. Like isn't that crazy? How a song could literally take you right back to when you first heard it.
Music is nuts.
It's
crazy.
nuts. It's like
nuts.
science. It's like science. Like there's this one song, it's by Arcade Fire. It's called The Suburbs. And I could literally in my mind visualize the first time I heard it. And I was like 12 or 13. And it takes you right back to when I was in middle school. And I was like, I like this song. So you could just hope as a musician that you could have the same effect on people and be like, I remember the first time I heard Soho House and I was going through a tough time, but I listened to it and it just made me feel a little bit better. That's really all I could hope for. So yeah,
the power music has is just unmatched from anything else.
Unmatched. Crazy. Even bad music. It's like it doesn't matter. As long as it evokes an emotion,
you'll remember it.
You'll remember it, and it'll be like,
remember
girl, remember that crazy song I heard? You're like, yeah. So
you know, the meme that Friday by Rebecca Black turned into, like,
hey, that sounds kind of good. See,
everybody gave it some crap though, for sure. At the time.
Yeah, they did. But she makes good music now. She makes really great music now, actually.
Yeah. Everybody, you know, we all have our moments. She just carried hers up, you know.
I'm like, if some of my songs went viral like that, I was like, ooh. I have a few demos of my computer that I'm like, lock it up.
Yeah.
Don't release.
There's some stuff that is in the vault, and there's some stuff that will stay in the vault.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, lock it up. I said, are you gonna get sued? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's the funny part. Because you get to see the evolution too, you know, like my first song that I ever written, like I have some notes all the way back from years ago. And I'm like, child. But it's just like the repetition of just doing it. It's like you get so much better. So
yeah, no, the best thing was when you can look back at your old stuff and be like, I just don't like, you know, it's not good anymore, because that means you're doing better, you know.
Yes,
you have to appreciate for what it was, but that means you're doing better.
Yes, I have this one song I wrote. Oh my gosh, I wrote it a while ago, and it's called Fake Friends, and it sounds crazy, but I was like, see, I could take some spurts from that and kind of use it, but it's like fake friends until the end. Fake friends until the end. It is like, whoo, we come a long way from that. It's like, whoo, it's tough.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. Check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.